Am I live? Uh,
Ooh.
Hello, everyone. It's James again. And today in the SoulSync community, we've got Yuvi, like the ultraviolet. And hopefully,
That
hopefully there's going to be some rays of knowledge dropped on us. Can I switch these? Let me just, does this work? There we go. I don't know if that affected you, but I was like looking over there at you, and now I can look at there at you, and it's anyway. Yuvi, welcome. I guess it's nice to meet you. I haven't met you before. And I guess neither has this little community that's starting to blossom. So tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you and why do you exist?
why do I exist? Damn, I'm gonna have to travel back a long ass time. But I will not go over how I exist.
Hmm,
Otherwise, this would probably get taken down very quickly.
that's right.
Yeah, look, I think I'll just give context in terms of like how long I've been in the space, what I've been doing, etc. I think that's the most viable, I guess you could say. So I am currently a university student. I am in my third year. I study Bachelor of Commerce, FinTech at UNSW. I've been in this space ever since the end of 2020, when I finished up high school, my HC, and I just got into it. And my cousin used to work for Consensus, and he was like this lead technical analyst, huge ETH maxi, and he's like, "Dude, you got to look into this Ethereum stuff." I'm like, "Bro, this looks so nerdy. Like, it looks like so weird." Obviously, I got into it a month, and I'm like fully set. Became basically ETH maxi too, I guess. And then yeah, from that point on, started to invest whatever earnings I had, started to dabble here and there, and like learn more about the tech and really understand what the industry is about. 2021 entirely investing year for me. Obviously there was the whole explosion, so I was very fortunate going to NFTs and stuff and like all this other jazz. Start experimenting with DeFi, so I got to experience a lot of different things. And the 2022 was like sort of the more technical, like product, like engineering sort of side. So I started to understand the tech in a lot more technical perspective, like how it actually works, and like for example, things like how Bitcoin works, how Ethereum, blah blah blah, that sort of jazz, in a more technical stance. And then yeah, I guess 2022 was also like when I guess my career started to explode. I started getting all these little errands and gigs that I started doing at UNSW, and that led me to the point where I am now, which is, first of all, I am a managing partner at UNSW Crypto Clinic, which is like the main crypto and blockchain body for UNSW. So we facilitate a lot of blockchain initiatives, whether that be projects, research development, research reports, whatever it may be. Like we're the ones you want to go through. So yeah. And then the other thing is I run the local student society, the UNSW Crypto and Blockchain Society. And that's basically just turning all the students into degens, honestly, like just seeing everyone come together and like have that one commonality that they love about blockchain. Whether you be a generalist, it's sort of for everyone. So I love it, man. I love educating. That's why I love interviews. Like this whole presence of just like talking to people, like it's awesome. So yeah, that's me. Hope that was good enough to these standards. And yeah.
The community here will judge you based on that. No, I think that's good. I think it's actually like pretty interesting. You get involved. 2021 is the investing year. 2022 is the understanding. Like I'm sure you're picking up bits over time, but then it's like greater focus on the tech. And I think
Yeah.
that's it's always one. It doesn't matter how you start. It's like getting people past that initial part into what's really going on. And I mean, you're in the
Mm.
soulbound community now, so I feel like that's indicative of a curiosity. I think that's why I'm here, and I'm sure that's why most others are. Um, I guess I'm interested on the UNSW side. The was it blockchain clinic, crypto clinic?
Crypto and Blockchain Society. Yeah. You can call it whatever you want. So
Yep,
similar enough. So it's okay.
that's awesome. And has that been going for a while? Like, what's the sort of pick up there and focus?
Yeah, so it's been around for like 5, 6 years actually. So yeah, so like 2017 when like the first bull run I guess happened, and then it was up for like a year or two. Then it basically died because Bitcoin had a heart attack, and then 2021 came and everything got rejuvenated, and then all the executives were like, let's revive the society, and then start of 2021 is when we like jump started it again, made all the paperwork, whatever it is. We did our first event, absolutely popped off. It was like virtual because of the COVID thing, and we got like 500 people to rock up. It was just one of the craziest things I've ever experienced so far. And then yeah, I guess I took over the presidency halfway last year, like mid 2022. So now main focus is, it's harder. It's definitely harder during this bear run, because now like you see all the different perspectives. Like it was easy in 2021 because everyone loved Bitcoin. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like I am Satoshi. I bought Bitcoin 3 minutes ago. I am the god of Bitcoin." I'm like, "All right, good for you." And then now you get completely different mantras, like, "Oh wait, when aren't you the guy associated with FTX?" I'm like, all right. Anyways, but yeah, I think I guess it's just sort of moving on from that perception and just catering for people who are already savvy. So giving them opportunities to connect with firms, or like just partner with other like-minded people who are just as savvy in the industry within the university context, and yeah, just stuff like that. So we've been around for a while. We've been doing great stuff and continue to rapidly grow, just like this soulbound community. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess it's good that this time it doesn't sound like they're fading the interest. They'll write it out.
Mm.
I guess with the lesser sort of attention to it at the moment, are you seeing that the conversations are more maybe productive, or like rather than talking about what to buy or any of that kind of stuff, people are more focused on how it works? Is that what you're saying? Or
Oh my God, you got it on the dot. Absolutely. Like back then, that's literally all it was. Anyone, so like with that event we did where I told you like this 500 people rocked up, it was an intro to crypto. And the whole premise was like, if you come by and you sign up to our sponsors exchange, then you get $30 in free Bitcoin. So obviously in that era, it was like, I need as much money as I can get. So I'm going to listen to these guys and hopefully get investment advice, even though we always said we don't give any. But yeah, you're right. The perception was different. Now, basically, people are who are speculatory, like in that sort of aspect. I just pulled out. They're like, it's too volatile. I'm like, all right, well, that's your perception. I'm not going to like forcefully change it. And then, yeah, you're left behind with people who understand the tech, are sort of doing their own thing, or maybe they're into cybersecurity or like computer science, but they have some familiarity of. So these are quite like, I guess, renowned, like, knowledgeable people. So yeah, completely different conversations now. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, that's good. I guess let's switch to the soul bounds. I'm trying to get a lay of the land. What are they to you? What are you excited about by them? What do you think is, I mean, maybe we'll start there. Why are you interested in them?
Yeah, look, I'm interested in them because weirdly, they were actually one of the first things I looked into when I got into like the space. Like I just stumbled upon them, which is sort of like why intrigued. So it's like an OG thing for me in my heart, like soulbound tokens. But I didn't really focus until I guess the end of last year was when they started getting a little bit more traction. Shout out to the Soulbis guys, Joey and Mitch. They actually jump started that curiosity for me because I'm the type of guy, I'm like, I want to know what you're doing, right? And I'm very curious. So I started looking into it and I'm like, okay, so like non-transferable, and there's like this NFT propriety, all this stuff, and you can gain ownership. And then, when I started putting the piece of the puzzles together, I'm like, huh, like this is perfect for things that can be like statewide national use cases like digital identity and stuff like that. Like this is perfect because like one element of NFTs and all these things is like, because it has the transferable aspect to it, might cause for more exploitation. But that's not to say soulbound tokens are perfect. They still have a long way to go. But communities like these are what's going to generate enough interest and I guess propel more developers or just more people to get involved and create solutions for it. And like I want to be a contributor to that. Although I cannot say unfortunately, we are looking to do some experiments with soulbound tokens with the university, some initiatives, which will come out very soon. Don't worry, it's not just you and the audience here that I'm blacking out, but you'll hear very soon about things that we're going to potentially do. So yeah, that's just for me. I think if I were to summarize, is that I think it's something that's so it just sounds really simple when you're like in the space, like, oh, non-transferable, whatever. But when you actually look at the utility and how far it could go, then you start to really understand the potential of soulbound tokens. And then that's when it gets really interesting and exciting. And then, this community like SoulSync to have like now 100 people collectively talk about something and generate use cases for it. Unreal. Like I've never seen anything like it. Obviously, I've been in the society, like the press, whatever, and like it's just completely different because there's so many different versions everywhere. There's like one half of people who are like, oh, how do I make money? It's like, should I leverage it by 100x? I'm like, yeah, probably don't do that, please. And there's the other half that's like, oh, I want to become a developer. So there's all these different mantras you have to like take care of. And this is just one niche focus that everyone sort of consolidates around and everyone's focused on. So that's what I'm excited about. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting that we've got like a focus for the group. And I look forward to seeing where it goes. Let's unpack some of these use cases maybe a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to give like actually, like I'm like our audience in that community probably has a reasonable understanding, but maybe like people are thinking about it in different ways. So you mentioned an identity capability, nation or statewide, which
Yeah.
leads me to think you're talking about like bringing a like a state ID online, not like building a digital ID that's not necessarily associated to your real
Yeah.
person, but how do I take like from the DVS my identity online and have that maybe for KYC purposes? Like, do you
That's right.
what sort of stuff are you thinking about there? And is
Yeah.
that yeah, is that something you
That's
can
the
talk
biggest
about?
one. Yeah, dude, that's the biggest one. I think there's a lot of other ones. Like for example, in the chat, they were talking about using for agriculture and all these other things. I think the one that I resonate to the most is digital identity, like decentralized digital identity. I think the fact that you can have something, because I think this is a great way to represent Web 2.5. And I mean that as in on the front end, you can still have Web 2 things. So, you know, your identity and how everything works, UX wise, like everything is just same. But it's just the back end is which is completely revolutionized using soulbound tokens. So like now you have these things which are completely non-transferable and prove ownership at the same time and do all these different things without you even having to change anything out of the ordinary. I think New South Wales government is doing quite a good job on this. Shout out to Victor Dominello. I see his LinkedIn posts all the time and he's like coming out with some other random, just like amazing like utility thing. And I'm just like, yeah, this sounds like a soulbound token. Like, you know, there's that similarity of, and it has its own sort of use case and usefulness. And yeah, so for me, decentralized digital identity, soulbound tokens marry each other really well. That's what I'm really like into.
And once someone has their Gov ID on chain, what does that start to open up?
Say it again, sorry.
Once someone has their like government ID on chain, what does that start to open up? What can they start to access?
I think that's a really good question. I think just for interoperability clauses, it just sort of opens it up to other Web3 avenues. So I think there's a lot of ways. So like obviously the government is going through this whole initiative of exploration to do with blockchain. And there's been a lot of talks in the past couple of years of it to forward its stance on nuance and propel it and whatever, and like become like the blockchain hub of the world or whatever it is. I think this is a great way to sort of keep the old, I guess, on the UX side, like how I was talking about Web 2.5, on the Web 2 side, keep everything standard in everyone's eyes. Because I think this is a perfect way to represent that not everyone needs to know that's on the blockchain. It's just like the use case is already there. So like it's something as simple as giving a sales pitch. And then you're a blockchain firm and you go up to someone and you're like, yeah, so we use DAOs, like decentralized autonomous. I'm like, so I don't care, fam. So you know what I mean? Like, does this solve my problem and how does it do so? Obviously, with something to do with this, ownership is the biggest thing, and you already have that through Soulbound tokens. And like to sort of broaden this aspect, what the conversation we're having. Yeah, look, interoperability with other Web3 things. I think eventually when regulation comes out and all these different protocols are going to have to sort of coincide with it, then it'll be a much smoother and linear pathway towards implementing whatever ID, because you can just straight away use that to prove that you're using, for example, X protocol, Y protocol, which will, you know, therefore help. I mean, okay, look, it's not the most decentralized thing in the world, but you can never get 100% decentralization. So in terms of the government's perspective, that's the things that really opens up from that side. Yeah.
Right, and like maybe you're verified once, and then that's the proof for that is put on chain, and then rather than having to provide personally identifiable information, you just can provide that proof. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, like you know, like what you mentioned before about KYC, like getting rid of that completely, not having to manually always verify. It's just like this straight up, you already have your wallet address, or like you just have to digitally sign using whatever you use already, MetaMask, or maybe another protocol that, for example, the regulator, or anything that you use. The Soulbound token is a form of ownership which can be stored on your wallet, and then when you access these different protocols, it's just there, like it's yours. No, it's immutable. No one can ever change that. Benefits of the blockchain, and then when you log in, no dramas. That's it. Simplicity.
Gotcha. Do you think that there's so like right now the requirements for a digital currency exchange in Australia, there's compliance there's compliance and operations and anti-money laundering standards that you have to meet. You've got to register with AUSTRAC and the KYC verification piece. I guess if someone's not interfacing with the company that's domiciled and operating out of the Australian market, then the identity verification piece is probably not necessarily required. And I guess what I'm getting at is like, is it a good idea that in future there's a scenario where I have a wallet that's connected to my real life identity? Like, is that the kind of direction that you think is going to lead to the best outcomes, or does that start to restrict, our ability to have privacy or ability to interact with things that we choose to?
Yeah, look, I think that comes back to the previous point of like, you can never achieve 100% decentralization because there's this whole thing of like that decentralization, a lot of aspects under it, biggest one being privacy, is like there'll never be a point where you can achieve that because regulators are going to step in and sort of have their own agenda. So I think to have the best of both worlds and to sort of just have that mutually beneficial solution, I think what I stated is probably one of the best ways. I'm not saying like it is definitely what's going to happen, but like for me, like in the current exploration phase, that's something that I would like to maybe learn about a little bit more, maybe get into the nitty gritty of, or like how this can work. Maybe it doesn't work. Okay. Maybe it doesn't end up working and like, cool. But I think that's one of the ways that we can sort of approach this whole thing of how can we prove to the regulators that we're still able to use this technology for good purposes, yet have that sort of some sort of control that allows them to, I guess, oversee things still. So it's a very complex topic. I think that's the biggest thing about soulbound tokens is like, again, yeah, they add full ownership, but is it something that regulators want necessarily? Probably not. So it's an interesting marriage, but I think that's probably the closest you're going to get for now, unless some like new technology comes out, which it probably will, and will completely cause my solution to become benign and like useless. But I think for now, that's probably the best way.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's probably what the regulator would like.
Yeah.
I guess like, I mean, if you look at something like CBDCs, right, combined with some
Oh my God.
identity piece, and it's kind of like you're not getting a decentralized outcome at all. You're getting something
Yeah.
that
It's just.
I would say reasonably confidently just kind of exposes you to like a worse environment.
Mm,
And like on a CBDC, if it's controlled, because that's the idea, if you're going to ask developers to build permissionless systems on top, but the foundation of that is, I guess, eroded, or at least you're putting trust. You're kind of like removing the trust network when that's what a public blockchain is kind of working towards. I think there's some examples of protocols that a regulator can't really influence, and Bitcoin would be one. ETH would be another, but I guess then you've got like flow-ons where they might not be able to um, like stop ETH from operating, but they might be able to crush down on validators that are operating a physical entity out of the US. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
like, and the same with how regs have the environment's been approaching the US crypto fallout more recently. They're going after banks because banks have the foothold, and so they're sort of putting pressure on them that way. It's I don't know. I'm hopeful that there's a balance there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, CBDCs are. We can go on for this for hours. Yeah, like when the RBA came out recently with their use cases, had to read through, and I'm quite like, okay, and like it's interesting the way you see them like phrase things. Like the one that caught my eye was CBDC backed stablecoin, and I'm like,
Isn't that the CBDC?
Yeah, no, but they add the back stablecoin because this is like currently there's the whole thing of like obviously this, but like CBDCs, how they've sort of are still centralized. Obviously, they like don't really go the blockchain way, and how most of them aren't even going to be built on the blockchain. They're going to have their own cryptographic solution. So like and then stable coins are built on the blockchain. They have like the same things, but it's more decentralized and not really for the central bank sort of agendas. So like the way they phrased it is a way to be like, oh no, we're still gonna be decentralized. We're listening to you guys, cool, decentralized, whatever it is, but like it's still gonna be for the sake of CBDC. Like, because when you read the use cases, especially when you do like offline payments, which was the number one that's led by ANZ, that's exactly what it is. It's this whole thing of like, oh, accessibility, blah blah. People who are unbanked in Australia, it's like, but Australia is one of the strongest financial, in terms of financial services, one of the strongest in the world. It's like, well, like it's not really a thing to strive for unless you're looking for even more control. So then there's this whole conversation of like, well, what are we doing here? It's like, okay. And then you read the other use cases and you're like, yeah, like I don't know. Retail CBDCs, I'm like, well, I don't know. But wholesale CBDCs, I can agree with to an extent, but retail ones that sort of make me go like, I don't know. It's just kind of like, it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. Yeah.
In terms of upgrading traditional finance, I understand the use case. If everyone's comfortable and happy, then that's fine. But in terms of building like permissionless networks on top, I don't see how it will attract that audience.
Yeah.
And then the question is, can that audience, even though it might be smaller now, can they go and build something that actually is more valuable and gets used? That's
like I think
it's much to worry about.
Yeah, I'm really happy you bring that up because Nigeria, for example, they are one of the first economies to actually pilot the CBDC. And they came out with a statistic recently that said like, I think 90, like it came out and within, I think 1 or 2 months of use, it was wildly unpopular. Like the adoption was extremely like bad. I think it said 98% of Nigerians were not using CBDC or something. 98. It's like only 2% of the entire population is like, yeah. And that fell under the whole thing of like, why? Like, what the hell? Like, this makes no sense to me. Like, I'm so confused. So, yeah, I think, it just kind of shows that, there's not enough adoption for it yet. And obviously, I get Australia, Nigeria, like different financial services context and institutions and how everything works in the background. It's different. But because here things are more set. There, I'm not fully sure how it is. So any Nigerians, please don't hurt me. I am not fully sure how it works there. But like the amount of adoption, I think it just showcases that it's not really a big thing as of now because it doesn't have that huge sort of value proposition. Like everything still works. There's no way to like completely just come in and like scoop it up, especially when it comes to financial services and an economy like Australia. Like when you get to more third, like developing countries and stuff who are actually unbanked, like I believe Indonesia, 30% of the population is unbanked. So there you're like, okay, makes sense, right? Then you can sort of start experimenting and see how this can be a real use case and how much it can affect the economy and how prosperous it is. So yeah.
I think it's interesting. There's definitely like an uplift of something. I think it's probably going to be one of those things where there's different options. You choose what you need to use for different things.
Yeah, agree.
I guess maybe like roll it back a bit. Maybe alongside Soulbounds. I guess there's like, I guess where do you think the interest is going to skew as a result of Soulbounds? And maybe you don't have a view. Maybe you're relatively early to Soulbounds, like I am. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. But I guess there's like some of the other chats I've had spoken about DAOs, and that's been interesting. Identities come up, governance as a combination of those two specifically is what's been talked about. But I think more than that, there's still a lot of playing around to do to figure out what works.
Yeah.
Are you down the rabbit hole far enough to talk about other projects you're seeing and what they're up to, or anything anything exciting?
No. Me personally, no. I'm more of like a generalist approach, as you could probably tell by my answer before. But like, I think like I understand enough to like have a basic conversation, but like no rabbit hole. There's no like extensive use case of. That's why when I mentioned before about the whole UNSW thing, it's like my perfect opportunity to also learn about the potential for it. So yeah, me personally, definitely more generalist sided. So I'm super open to learn about just other use cases for this. Yeah.
It's the perfect spot. People that are watching this can give us some in the replies. I don't know where this video is going to go, but
True.
in the chat. This has been cool. I guess more broadly zooming out at crypto, then areas that interest you, or maybe like what you think is going to be areas of focus that people start to see a productive move towards in the coming, I don't know, year or two. Not so much price stuff, but just areas of innovation that you're, keeping an eye on.
Ooh, I think DAOs. I think they're going through a very interesting time right now because, like, this, for example, I think in the last like day or something, Utah passed a regulation to do with DAOs to call them. Oh, I didn't read into it, but it was like very, very good. Apparently, it was very DAO positive. So Utah passed some sort of regulation recently about DAOs. I think if I were to have an educated guess, probably call them like an LLC or limited corporation or something. I'll just search it up right now.
I'm having a look too.
This is a commercial break right here. Timeout.
Elevator.
Um,
Well, I think the previous stuff Utah's done has been fairly skewed towards allowing a way for a company to interface with the DAO, right? Or a team to build for a DAO, and that kind of having recognition in that. Because obviously, if a DAO wants to interface with a company that is domiciled somewhere and regulated somewhere, that company needs the ability to like enter contracts and have them enforceable.
Yeah, look, yeah, it's obviously state dependent, like the US, like it is. But I think it's definitely a advancement towards like this is a very niche thing, like DAOs on the concept of everything, which I think Steve Ellis highlighted pretty well, and I agree with like going into this year too, is that there's two major trends, which is number one, regulation, hands down, like especially for Australia, where this token mapping, all these reports are coming out, and all this like RBA CBDC, how like the results going to come out midway this year, and also the licensing frameworks for crypto to do with financial services is going to come out halfway this year. Huge year for regulation, huge. We root for all the ones who are going to sit around the round table and advocate for, I guess more permissionless blockchains and like all this development and amazing stuff and turning into like this blockchain hub. But yeah, like even around the world, like US cracking down on stable coins staking, and El Salvador, well, loving Bitcoin since I don't even know, before they were like 1000 BC. I think, and then the other half of that is education. I think comes back to that point of people are starting to get smarter and actually ask questions in the space rather than blindly follow like some NFT project just because it's an NFT project, which is one thing I'm super happy about. And I think this year is going to be the final consolidating point, because 2022 was a very interesting year. Like it was
I
yeah,
think it's more
exactly.
like a wave, right?
Yeah. It was the middle, because it was like a lot of people were in denial of the fact that it was happening, like the bear run. And you could see, like, I would even just jump on YouTube and see like all these analysis, and everyone would be like, no, it's still the bull run. Don't worry. It's still the bull run. And I'm like, that's interesting, because it's not. Stuff's going down. Like, you have to be pragmatic. But everyone was like in their own world, in denial. And then when Luna happened, then everyone's like, okay, so we're in a bear run. We're in a bear market now, and then obviously FTX, and then a call for regulation, and all this stuff happens. So yeah, very middle year, and now in 2023, people are starting to ask, like start to be more smart, ask questions, and actually familiarize themselves what to look out for, rather than just simply be like, oh, screw it, I'll just put my money in like Dogecoin, and 100x in like a week, and I'll become a millionaire. So yeah, in terms of overall broad trends, those are the two things I see, which I'm very excited about. Obviously, as a UNSW rep, we look to, facilitate more courses or just have like short video series or just talk to anyone such as yourself, like educate people and let them know about what's happening in the space, what to look out for, the history of money and like why we need crypto, very generalist, rudimentary stuff. And then regulation, everyone needs to chip in. That's it. Everyone has to play their part. Like there's no sort of like, whatever, everyone will take care of it. It's like, no, like we all need to like sit our ass down and we actually need to do something about it. So yeah, it's good. It's good times.
Yeah, I think there's some tough kind of hard problems to be worked through. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like everyone listened to the loud people that knew what was going on and followed their advice, and then half of those people got wiped out and lost everyone else's money. So now you basically have to ask questions, otherwise you're not going to learn. Like that's the learning, is you got to understand these things yourself. Cool. All right. Well, it's been great chatting. And we'll put this video up when we decide where, and the people that watch it in the community, drop in, add your thoughts. Maybe we'll spark up some debate. Probably should get some regulation folk to weigh in. Alrighty. Thanks, heaps,
Oh
mate.
no, please don't, please. Let's go. I'm not soulbound token expert. Please don't. No, I'm kidding. I'm very excited about this community. So anyone listening to this, join. Ask Joey or Mitch for the invite link, and I highly advise you join. A lot of interesting conversations happening. Half the stuff I don't even know what's on about. And yeah, that's it.
Nice one. We're gonna learn together.
All right, beautiful.